we have learned that two lines that do not meet at any point are called non-intersecting lines. So these are non-intersecting lines. These two are non-intersecting and these two are non-intersecting. No matter how much ever you extend them, they will never meet. Such lines are also called parallel lines. So parallel lines are the lines which never meet. No matter how much ever you extend them, they will never meet. And how do we denote parallel lines in a figure? Well, we denote parallel lines by drawing arrows on them. So these two are parallel lines. To indicate it in a figure, I draw an arrow on each of the two lines. So one arrow on each of the lines indicates that these two are parallel lines. Now to indicate that these two are parallel, I draw two arrows on each of the two lines. So there are two arrows on this line, two arrows on this line. Means that these two are parallel. Now if you look at this line and this line, there is one arrow on this line and there are two arrows on this line. What does this mean? They are not the same. 1 and 2 not the same. So this line and this line are not parallel. So this is how we denote parallel lines in a diagram or a figure. Now let us name these lines. So I name this line as AB, this line as CD. This line is line PQ and this is line RS. Now I can say that line AB is parallel to line CD. So AB is parallel to CD and PQ is parallel to RS. We write it as AB parallel to CD. This is a shorthand notation for denoting parallel lines. This is a shorthand for is parallel to. So instead of writing the entire thing, AB is parallel to CD, I can write AB, then two lines and CD. AB parallel to CD. Similarly, for these two, I can write PQ parallel to RS. So this is line PQ parallel to line RS. So this is how we denote parallel lines. Now parallel lines are all around us. You see them everywhere in your daily lives. The desk in which you are sitting right now, the screen on which you are looking, everything contains parallel lines. So if you look at this ladder, these two sides of the ladder are parallel lines. No matter how much ever you extend them, that is, no matter how long the ladder is, these two sides will never meet. If you look at these railway tracks, then these two lines are parallel lines. So parallel lines are all around us and we see them everywhere. Now we have already learned that a transversal is a line which intersects two or more lines at distinct points. So in this case, this is a transversal which intersects these two lines. This is a transversal which intersects these two lines. In this case, these two and these two are parallel lines. So transversal intersecting two parallel lines, a transversal intersecting two parallel lines. Now when a transversal intersects two parallel lines, several angles are formed. Let us see what are the angles which are formed. So with this line, this transversal forms 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. So it forms 4 angles with this line. With this line, the transversal forms 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. So 4 angles with this line. So in total, this transversal forms 8 angles. So we see that when this transversal intersects two parallel lines, 8 angles are formed. What about this case? With this line, it forms 1, 2, 3, 4 angles. With this line, 1, 2, 3, and 4 angles. So in this case also, 8 angles are formed. So if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, 8 angles are formed. And this is true not just for parallel line, but for any two lines. So in this case, the transversal P intersects line M and line N, and it forms 8 angles with these two lines. So angle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these are the 8 different angles formed when a transversal P intersects any two lines, M and N. Now these 8 angles marked have some special names. So let us study more about them in details. What is a pair of corresponding angles? Well, angles which are on the same side of the transversal and they are in the same position with respect to the two lines are called corresponding angles. So, angles which are on the same side of the transversal. So, let us consider this side of the transversal, that is the left of the transversal, and in the same position with respect to the two lines. That is, if I say above line N, then I have to take above line M. And pair means there will be two angles which are together called corresponding angles. So two angles which are together called corresponding angles are these two angles. So you can check they are on the same side of transversal P, that is on this side. With respect to line N, angle 1 is above line N. Also with respect to line M, angle 5 is above line M. So they are in the corresponding positions or the same position with respect to the two lines. Now you may say that if I take this angle, let's call this as angle 3. If I take this angle, even this angle is to the left of transversal. Angle 1 is above line N and angle 3 is above line M. So are 1 and 3 also corresponding angles? Well, no. Corresponding angles have to be on different vertices. So they have to be on different vertices. So 1 and 3 are not corresponding. 1 and 5 are a pair of corresponding angles. Can you find the other pair of corresponding angles in the diagram? Angle 2 and angle 6 also form a pair of corresponding angles. Both the angles are to the right of line P. Now with respect to these two lines, angle 2 is above line N, angle 6 is above line M. Also they are formed on different vertices. So these two are corresponding angles. This is another pair of corresponding angles, angle 3 and angle 7. Both the angles are to the left of transversal P. Angle 3 is below line N. Angle 7 is below line M. And they are formed on different vertices. So these two form a pair of corresponding angles. And there is one more pair. This angle 4 and angle 8. You can check. Both are to the right of transversal P, below line N, below line M, and formed on different vertices. So we see that there are 4 pairs of corresponding angles formed when a transversal intersects two lines. Out of the 8 angles, there are 4 different pairs of corresponding angles. Now when a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then the corresponding angles formed are equal in measure. So this is a transversal intersecting these two parallel lines. We can check that the corresponding angles formed will be equal in measure. So let us first mark out the corresponding angles. If I take this angle, what will be the angle which forms a pair of corresponding angles with this angle? Well, I have taken an angle to the right of transversal, so I need to take an angle to the right. This angle is above this line, so I need to take an angle which is above this line. So these two are corresponding angles. So these are the corresponding angles formed. Now, these are equal in measure. Don't believe me? Well, let's check. So let's check for this angle using a protractor. So I place my protractor on the vertex of the angle with one arm coinciding with the 0. I see that the angle formed is 60 degree. So this angle is 60 degree. Now let me measure this angle. So we take our protractor and place the center on the vertex of the angle. This 0 coincides with one of the arms of the angle, and I see the angle formed is 60 degree. So even this angle is 60 degrees. So we see that both the angles are equal to 60 degrees. So this angle is equal to this angle. So I see that the corresponding angles are equal. And there are 4 pairs of corresponding angles formed. So in case of parallel lines, each pair of corresponding angles is equal. That is, this angle is equal to this angle. This angle is equal to this angle. This angle is equal to this angle. And this angle is equal to this angle. Each pair is equal. Now, how do we mark out the corresponding angles in a diagram? How do we find out which are the 2 corresponding angles? Let us see if we can identify a pattern to mark out the corresponding angles. So we need to draw a pattern which contains these 2 angles. So first, I draw a line corresponding to the transversal. So this is a line on the transversal, and I need to contain or include these 2 angles. So I draw a line here, and I draw a line here. So we see that an inverted F is formed. What about this case? Again, we draw a line on the transversal. I stop here because our angle is still here only, and we need to include these 2 angles. And I include these 2 angles. So again we see that an inverted F is formed. In this case, we'll start from here because the angles are facing this side. So we start from here and we draw lines containing the angles. So this angle is contained, this angle is contained. Again we see that an F is formed. In this case also, the angles are facing downwards. So we start from here and stop at the vertex of the second angle. Draw lines containing the angles. We see an inverted F is formed, a flipped F is formed. So if we can find a pattern indicating an F shape, we can understand that the angles formed are the corresponding angles, and the corresponding angles are equal in case of parallel lines. So if we have 2 parallel lines, we can find the F pattern, and the angles formed in this F pattern are the corresponding angles, and they are equal. So now can you find X in this diagram? Well, these 2 arrows indicate that this line and this line are parallel lines. In case of parallel lines, we know that corresponding angles are equal. We need to find X. So if we can find an angle corresponding to X, that is an angle which forms a pair of corresponding angles along with x, then I can say that those two angles are equal. For finding the corresponding angles, we need to identify an F pattern. So let us see if we can do that. We start from here and stop here. Now I draw a line containing x. Now to form an F, I need to draw a line here. We see that an F is formed. Which are the angles contained in this F shape? This angle and this angle. These two angles are formed by this F. So I can say that x degree and 115 degree are the corresponding angles. And since corresponding angles are equal, we can say x is equal to 115. So x is equal to 115. So when we have two parallel lines, then a pair of corresponding angles is equal.